Greetings, brethren and sisters. This is Gillie Priest of Gillie Peace Revolutionary Radio. And as in practice, I will commence by covering certain things, certain information that I would like to bring to the brethren and sisters. But before doing that, as regular practice, is to introduce them again to the book, Forged by Time Limited, and asking the brethren them for them support. I always ask the brethren them for them support for the brethren and sisters. And I always thank the brethren and sisters for those who have given me their support so far. And I'm looking forward to continuously obtaining the item support towards the book. And at the present moment, I'm thinking about printing up some copies here in Jamaica to make it more easily available. Because at the present moment, it's only available on Amazon. Secondly, I was contacted by some brethren who are incarcerated, imprisoned within the state of Florida in the United States of America. And they contacted me and asked me if I could basically accumulate some Rastafari documents, some Rastafari books. Because what it sounds like to me is like basically them setting up a class. They want to set up a Rastafari program within the Florida Department of Correctional System or within the federal system that exists within the state of Florida. I didn't get that part clear, but whatever it is, these brethren are in prison and they are looking material. So for those who have Rastafari material that they can donate, especially for those brethren who are presently in New York State, they already have information that I issued to them this morning. We can do. The other brethren can contact me and I will give them the necessary information in terms of who they can send the Rastafari documents and books to within that particular prison. Still have to get some more information in on it. But so far, I was able to obtain the email address for the chaplain who heads up religious affairs within that particular prison within the state of Florida. So anyone who contact me and have books and Rastafari documents that they are willing to donate to the brethren within the prison department in the state of Florida to help the brethren them set up their own program, that will be more than welcome. Them can contact me both at the number on the screen, and then I will furnish them also with the email address for the chaplain. Now there's some other basic information pertaining to Forged by Time Limited as a corporation, for-profit corporation that I incorporated several weeks ago in order to accomplish two basic things: to help me move the Rastafari movement forward, as well as to help me to set up my own financial circumstances on a more accommodating level. In the last broadcast, I also brought to the brethren and sisters attention that I gave some volunteer work at an organization, at a union by the name of Tankor. Tankor is based at 6 East Parade. That's close, it's on Church Street, close to the corner of Church Street and Sutton Street at downtown Kingston. And this is a very progressive organization. They assist people with documents, notaries, litigation, loans, basically anything that poor people trying to get some type of assistance with. The Tankor Union will give assistance. And they are also at the same time soliciting people to do volunteer work. So for those who may not necessarily at this particular moment needs any assistance within the legal or financial documents or within the notary, but can just donate some time. You can go there and volunteer with the people. I was also able to finalize the account for Forged by Time Corporation that I incorporated. And I'm in the process now of setting up the online account. I was able to establish 2 accounts so far, which is like mandated when someone establishes a for-profit corporation in Jamaica. You have to establish a local currency account and a foreign currency account, which I was able to accomplish. But now they want me to go through the process, and I do desire going through the process of establishing the online banking thing. Kind of went into a little itch today. I was supposed to finalize it today, but I would have to find some other day to get another necessary particular information that is necessary in order to establish this. The seminary, the Rastafari Promise Key Seminary, is presently moving forward, and today, after I get this house cleaning general information out of the way, I'm going to continue reading from the particular document that lays out the reason why we believe it is necessary to establish the Rastafari Promise Key Seminary. I'm also in the process of trying to get into the prison system, and one of my desire, or the main purpose of and aim of trying to get into the prison system, is so I can make links with brethren who are presently in the system, who are captives to the system, so that I can make a better indirect link to the brethren who are on the street, where we can get access to certain brethren where we can be able to reason with them, to try to elevate them consciousness to a different level in terms of what I'm trying to do towards alleviating the high levels of serious crimes in Jamaica. So those are some of the basic things I wanted to touch upon. And one other thing, the other day, I did do a reason with Badass to run the program out of England, and we kind of touch upon the concept of unity. And when we touch upon the concept of unity, my position within that reason that we have a very fallacious, a very misappropriated concept of what the term unity means, and how does someone goes about trying to create a unified force within any movement, within any organization, but most particularly we were speaking within the Rastafari movement. And one of the things is that we have this false concept of unity that states basically, in order for us to have unity, every man has to agree and act on a certain accord. And it has always been my position that that is a fallacious concept, a negative concept of what unity is, because there is nowhere in the world we have ever witnessed where it has ever been recorded that unity of a people or of a potent organization developed out of everyone coming to an agreement to a certain particular concept, ideology, or philosophy. Right? But when we use, and it is a great reason to use experience to guide us, because when we use experience to guide us, the necessary evidence exists and establishes itself. How does one go about unity? Unity is a thing that needs a certain amount of coercion to it. But people do not like to hear that. People do not like to hear that there's a certain amount of coercion that is necessary towards unity. And why we don't want to hear that? Because we have this false concept of unity, that unity comes out of every man just volunteer, because of the fact that they have share a similar ideology or philosophy. And they come together and unite. But every mass movement you ever see that take place in this world, it is never consistent of that. Some of the largest percentages of those who form mass movement is out of just following. They do not even know the ideology or the philosophy to which they have attached themselves. You go into some other place and you see a strong sense of unity, is because that unity carries a certain amount of threat, a certain amount of force, a certain amount of coercion. But we don't want to hear that. We do not want to hear that. Unity also comes out of enticement. You know, most of us, we love Joe likes. If something is there that we desire, then we join it. And that is not necessarily something that is negative in the initial stage of bringing in people into a movement. There are tentacles to these things that we call unity. We have to understand all these tentacles and learn how to imply these tentacles if we are talking about to create a unifying force to move forward. So I want to give an example when we speak of unity, since this is one of the most lacking things within the Rastafari movement, I'm going to reiterate something. When I was in the system, and when I came out of the system, it was never my intention to ingratiate myself within the Rastafari movement. That was never my intention. My intention was to embed myself within the black liberation struggle. That struggle to which the Rastafari movement is only a part. There are other parts to this movement. There's an economic part. There's a political part. There's a philosophical part. There's an ideological part. There's a cultural part. There's a historical part. We all do not have to be within that one particular segment in order to contribute to this movement. So I had no intention of coming out here and say, I'm going to embed myself within the Rastafari movement. No. And I still do not have that desire. But whenever I find it necessary that I have to address anything within the Rastafari movement, or there are times when I'm requested to do so, then if I feel like, I do it. But let me go back to this concept of unity. You must look at unity like when you look at an octopus, where you have octopus. A lot of people don't know this. But the average octopus that you encounter, it have like 13 different brains, One of the only animals on the face of the earth with multiple brains. Right? And it have multiple tentacles. And these brains that this one octopus has control one particular tentacles. That is also a sense of unity within that concept of that formation of nature. And we can learn from that. So when we look at the different tentacles of an octopus, they work in accordance. They work off of central muscle base within the same one single octopus. Same thing with human when humans seek after unity. People come together for various and varying reasons. Some may join the organization because they love what the organization is giving away. Some may join the organization purely out of an ideological sentiment. Some may join the organization because they can receive a salary from it. Some may join the organization just because they get the protection that it offers. We all do not have to go out there and claim we are looking unity out of one mental accord. Where the one mental accord becomes necessary within any guiding principled organized force is by those who gives direction to the movement. And there is where we go back to the concept of having a cadre that is based on a central ideological concept, that concept that leads and guides the movement towards its ultimate objective. But everyone in the movement does not have to be of that one formation of mind. And we have seen where resources and the control of resources has always played a most fundamental role in bringing about unity in our people. What do you think had unified European in the 17th and 18th century when they decided to conquer the world, steal, rob, murder, rape, plunder? It was only because of the vision of every man believing that he would have been able to get rich from such worldwide plunder, and they all joined up. Some joined up as missionaries, some joined up as soldiers, some joined up as administrators, some joined up as merchants. Every man joined up based upon his own particular and personal interests. While at the very top, at the center, none of those interests conflicted with those who are actually directing the enslavement and colonialization of the entire world by the European forces. Put it another way, when we're talking about fighting crime and violence within our community, and going to reason with the youth them and trying to change it, you think you can go down the empty-handed? You think you can go down the empty pocket? You think you can go down there and don't have the means to replace the means by which them youth they gain them daily bread? and don't have something to replace it with, you think you can go tell a youth to stop rob and do all them little fallacy and don't replace it with something, and then you go back at your yard and eat and drink from your honest bread? No, we grow up amongst youth. I spend my whole life amongst the youth them. I know the youth them think. No man no want to hear no empty bag talk. And him have a right not to hear because him see the destitution of his ancestors, of his parents and his grandparents and his great-grandparents. And him not taking that talk no more. So that is one of my essential being why I established this corporation, is to use it to accumulate resources. So when I get into the prison or when I start reasoning with the youth them and I can tell the youth them, so listen, we can't do this for you. And the organization can do this for you. And the corporation can do this for you. And if this is the assistance that you think you need, then we are going to try to accommodate that which you believe you need. So that's what the thing said. And we, like I tell you before, all these initiatives that we are addressing, all these initiatives comes up to under Forged by Time, because like I say, everything that I do has to be a subsidiary of Forged by Time. Establishing the Rastafari Seminary, establishing the corporation, establishing the prison assistant thing, establishing the juvenile program, all of that. One more thing, I was asked by a brethren recently to assist them with developing up a studio. And I was invited to get a little walkthrough in the studio. And the studio is right at the entrance going into Tivoli Garden. And I went down there, went in the studio. Very small, tight place, the sound room, the engineering room. 1 and 2 pieces of second-hand used equipment and all that. And then I asked one of the brethren there, I think he's the owner of the studio, and I basically said to him, so, well, let me hear something. And what was a great surprise to me is that the quality of the sound that's coming out of that second-hand instrument, look all outdated, was of a high-quality sound. Still, I really do not know what type of assistance they are looking for me to contribute to that studio, because I have no studio experience. I have no entertainment experience. I have no managerial experience in the entertainment business. But I tell them, well, what I can apply is intelligence and common sense by trying to show them how to improve and get the most efficiency out of what they have, and to basically assist them in going forward. So I tell them that the next broadcast I'm going to put out an appeal for them to say if they cannot obtain some more modern, up-to-date studio equipment. So anyone out there that's listening to this, any listeners, subscribers, male and female, anyone who have any up-to-date technological equipment that can be used within a recording studio, where we can record audio and visually, and if the brethren and sisters are willing to donate it, then please, by all means, contact this number right here, and then I will try to synchronize how we can go about obtaining the equipment and having these equipment delivered to the studio. So that's another development there. Now, moving forward, I want to spend some time, because I haven't been spending some quality time dealing with the Rastafari Promise Key Seminary, because there are so many things coming at me so fast and so forceful, things that I need to get done simultaneously with everything else that I'm doing, that at the present moment I'm not able to do one thing at a time, finish that one thing and then go to the second priority and then go to what is third prioritized and go to, if I don't, I have to be multitasking across the platform in terms of all the things them that needs to be done and needs to be accomplished. I'd also reach out to a brethren and asking a brethren basically how to go about setting up an internet I don't even know the right term if you use. But I have set up the internet seminary on an independent basis, so I don't have it mixed in too much with the Rastafari, Gillie Priest Rastafari, Revolutionary Radio. I want to create different platforms for the different purposes, but at the same time, they all come up under the one umbrella of Forged by Time. I also need someone or multiple people to design an emblem for the Rastafari Promise Key Seminary. For the seminary in particular, we are henceforth, after selecting the one that's most appropriate for this mission, then that emblem will become the property of the Rastafari Promise Key Seminary. So I'm inviting all the brethren and sisters, they design some emblem and forward them to me upon the technology here. And then we're going to go through a selection process and then move forward from there. If I get no contributors, if I get no one push forward in the design, then as usual, it's going to fall upon I man to do it, and then I will always take up that which others has failed to do. It's just that I'm trying to get other brethren and sisters involved in the establishment of the Rastafari Promise Key Seminary. Now, one of the things that I want to do in moving this seminary forward is to appeal basically to have at least one student from every country upon the face of the earth. That is one of the things we are going to try to accomplish. So what I want to ask the brethren and sisters, for those who have any intention to participate in this particular curriculum of the Rastafari Promise Key Seminary, I'm asking you please to reach out to others, especially others in other countries, who will be able to have the time to participate. And again, we do not all have to, you see, the great thing with this technology, we not all have to participate at the same time. But we are going to need each and every seminarian to participate in each and every single one of the programs that will be advanced through the Rastafari Promise Key Seminary. And next great thing about this seminary is this: people will reach the completion of this seminary at different times. It's not like in the basic daily 8-hour academic institution where everyone starts at the same time and everyone finishes at the same time. No, based upon the technology, everyone will be able to download or get the program and watch the program for each and every session of the seminary at their own time, at their own pace, finish at their own leisure. And we're going to move this thing forward. And this document here, I've introduced it on several occasions. The Tabernacle Rastafari Promise Key Seminary. This is a thesis, or some refer to as a capstone, that I had submitted in order to obtain a master's degree from the New York Theological Seminary. And my thesis was basically based on how one should go about the reasons and the purpose of establishing Rastafari Seminary based through the internet as well as brick and mortar, meaning through establishing physical buildings in the future. And over the past several months, I've read particular aspects of this document because the main intention of this document is to lay out why I believe and why others who were incarcerated with me believe that it was necessary to go about establishing a Rastafari seminary on the internet and in brick and mortar, but more particular on the internet where it should be having access to a worldwide audience. And we need to bring in the worldwide audience of the Rastafari so we can better coordinate the philosophical doctrine that is intended to move the Rastafari movement forward. So while we are using the Rastafari Promise Key Seminary to establish a unified conceptual cadre in order to staff and lead this worldwide liberation struggle of the Rastafari movement. At the same time, we have established Full by Time Corporation in order to create resources. Because let me tell you one thing with the brethren there. And it is sad, but it's a experiential aspect of the Rastafari movement. It is not a cultural part of the movement for individuals within the movement to donate anything outside of the community in which they live or outside of the community in which they participate. So it is hard to build an organization talking about to create a worldwide effect based upon our cultural experience that is going to be based on asking people to contribute and to give resources to our organization. Because we have a people based upon our past experience, we are mentally dominated by superstition and suspicion. Superstition and suspicion. We are very suspicious of anyone that comes to us asking us to donate towards any struggle and any move. And it is justified. It is justified. So I had decided, among others, even before I walk out of the prison system, that I was not going to come out here and ask anyone to donate things in order to move the Rastafari movement forward. No, we're going to establish, and we did establish, a for-profit corporation where we are not begging anyone for anything, but we are providing a service which will require some form of compensation. And we're going to use that compensation in a voluntary way to move. And I learned that in a prison, you know. I tell you, I learned that in a prison. From a close-up interaction with my community. We can go to, and I have done it in the past, and we have done it in the past. We have go to our community and say, listen, we need donations. I remember one thing there where there was a massive earthquake years ago in Haiti. And we had a meeting. We had a meeting through the organization. I think it was through the Caribbean African Unity Organization, or it was held under the Rastafari banner. I don't recall which banner it was held under. And as I sat in the meeting, I'm listening to everyone crying. Oh, they were devastated. Oh, they were empathetic. Oh, they were sympathetic to what was going on to the Asian people in Haiti. And I'm sitting to them and I'm looking at everyone saying their piece about they were devastated. But when I said to them, and this room had comprised about 50 prisoners, I said, okay, since we all feel this way about the devastation in Haiti and the suffering and the exploitation, we are going to collect a donation and seek permission from the prison administration, because the prison administration is going to collect the funds. We in prison cannot collect it from each other. And we'll direct the prison administration to where to send the money, whether to the Red Cross or some other charitable organization. And out of a room of 50 people, about 10 people decided to contribute. So I learned from that, and I learned from similar experience. We have people who will cry about things. But as soon as you say to our people, contribute something, donate something, then all the tears disappear. Then superstition and suspicion intervenes. The man, they are thief. I trick them, I try to trick man. The prison not going to send it. The prison going to act like them is the one donating it. So I learn from that. But the flip side of that is this. That which I've also learned. If you go to your fellow prisoners or you go to your fellow community members and you say to them, we are selling this product in order to donate the proceeds to a good case, 99% of them will buy that product because they will be able to see and attain a personal benefit. And that is the reason why in the prison system, every inmate, every prisoner organization had a fundraising concept. And they have a fundraising product that them sell to the prison population. And these organizations make thousands of dollars. And people will buy the product that is being sold by the organization, knowing that the proceeds of that product will be going towards charitable cause. So I learned very much from that. So I could never learn from that and then come out in this society and start a non-profit organization and then turn around, go around and asking people to contribute to it. That would have meant that I have not learned from my personal experience. No. So what we're going to do, we're going to sell a service. We're going to sell a product and then use proceeds from that for charitable cause and charitable purposes. And this document again was basically where it was spelled out the purpose and the reason why we believe it is necessary to establish the Rastafari Promise Key Seminary. We have been reading through this document now for weeks now. We have produced several programs we have read. So I'm going to continue with this forward now for a little and then elaborate on it some more. 1 minute. Elaborate on it some more so that we can attain a better understanding. And so far, the parts that we have dealt through, we're just covering different aspects of the trials and tribulation that the Rastafari Virgin went through, and by that led to how the Rastafari seminaries were established and developed in a particular way, which up to this moment have exhausted its purpose. So we need a new format, a new way that's better highlight the aims and objectives of where we are trying to go. So I'm going to continue with some of the reading from this, and then we move. It says, for centuries, Africans were dispossessed of the fullness of the ancient doctrinal and spiritual practices, and imbued with the most diabolical doctrine interpretation of other people's exegesis of sacred texts and beliefs in order to justify their subjugation. With the attainment of a semblance of self-agency, control at the end of the 19th century, it was to the same Bible they turned in order to seek answers to their most burning questions concerning their centuries of oppression. With the case of studying the historicity of the Bible and discovering its organization and connection with Africa, and applying their own exegetical understanding, void of proper contextualization, a decision was made by the most zealous of spiritual liberators within the African population to accept the Torah, the Old Testament, as divinely inspired by the One, upon their ability to remain discreet yet functional due to their anti-establishment posture, and where such discretion was necessary for their very survival. Now I'm going to take this reading again in a piecemeal. For centuries, Africans were dispossessed of the fullness of their ancient doctrinal and spiritual practices and imbued with the most diabolical doctrinal interpretation of other people's exegesis of sacred texts and belief in order to justify their subjugation. And some of this we have touched on earlier, where we basically are saying, before we encounter Babylonians, and we had encountered Babylonians at different parts of our historical existence. And these different historical parts of encountering Babylon took place by when we encountered the different nationalities. So when we encountered as African the Greeks for the first time, it was at a different time period. We encountered the Romans. It was a different time period. We encountered the Persians. It was a different time period. We encountered the Arabs. It was a different time period when we encountered the British. It was a different time period when we so on and so forth. But at each and every time when we first encountered these outsiders, their number one mission was to indoctrinate us, was to take away our own political, economical, philosophical, ideological concept concept and ideological formation that have guided our people from the beginning of time. They took all of that away from us and imbued within our brain the conquering concept, a concept of death that have still encompassed, still control our brain. The vast majority of us are still under that mental colonial domination today. So with the attainment of a semblance of self-agency control at the end of the 19th century, it was to the same Bible they turned in order to seek answers to their most burning question concerning their centuries of oppression. One of the first things, if not the very first thing, that the conquerors did to us was to take away from us our very concept of God. Because if you can control an individual or a collective group of people, if you can control their concept of God, you are able to control them in every other aspect. And that's why it was so critical for the Babylonians to use scriptural doctrine as a central instrument in the formation of the slave mentality. That mentality which controls most of us up to this very day. So when you come up now to the late 1800s, the 1900s, when liberations were now being fought by our ancestors to liberate ourselves, at least economically and politically. And for those of us who try to liberate ourselves mentally and spiritually, we turn to this very same Bible that was used to imprison us, the very same Bible that was used to enslave us, the very same Bible that was used to wash our brain clean and make our brain as white as snow. The very whip that was used to lash us mentally was the very whip to which we turn to seek liberation. And I don't knock the virgins that turn to the scripture. I don't knock them. I will never knock them. Because those were virgins who were looking and seeing a silhouette of what they wanted. It's like when you look through a curtain, you do not see the object on the other side of the curtain clearly. Our mind at that time, coming out of bondage, were so deeply imbued with scriptural doctrines and scriptural prophecy that our very first elders turns to those same scripture to find the prophecy as to why we are a people that were facing so much trials and tribulation. So I don't knock them. They were using what they had. These were people who were just coming out of slavery. These were people that had no formal education. These were people who had an imbued sense of a higher power and a greater force in existence outside of themselves. So they turn to the Bible. They turn to the Bible to seek answers to their own liberation, to seek answers to the liberation of their own posterity. And I go and say, I do not believe there's any single one of us at this time on this face of the earth, speaking of those of us of the African race, who can really go to and make the claim that we are 100% liberated mentally. No, I will never buy into that concept. Because every day nature reveals something new that we have no knowledge of. And to attain knowledge on a daily basis, that is the only sense of liberation. To keep revealing truth unto oneself and unto one's people so we can move forward. So the brethren at that time then turned to scripture. Especially when they came into the knowledge that the doctrinal scriptures of the Bible was attached to Africa. And that the characters in a lot of these were characters who came out of the African race, if not all of them came out of the African race. So the brethren them turned to the scripture. And that is the well from which we are drunk. We are drunk from that well, no matter how high we may have reached today on an intellectual or on an intelligent basis. We all came from that well. So, the essence of this thing is coming into the 1900s and the 20th century, the brethren them start to search. And that searching has led to both good and bad doctrinal practices. Because for the bad aspect of that doctrinal processes, some of us are taking the very theological doctrine of Christendom and just put blackface on it and claim spiritual liberation. That is a negative aspect of it. But the positive aspect of it is the historical, coming into that knowledge of the historical part that scriptural doctrine played in our subjugation. And that is the reason why it is a very good tool to use if you are using it appropriately, to point out to the people, even the contradiction that lays in it, to point out how it was actually a lash that was imposed upon us. So today, you have hundreds, if not thousands, of Rastafari seminaries throughout the world that is established and existing upon scriptural doctrine of Christian theology. And some of them mix it with Muslim theology, Islamic theology. Some mix it with Buddhist theology. Some mix it with Confucius theology. All in the search of truth. Not knowing that their very existence is truth itself from where they should begin. But what was good about that? What was good about them turning to scripture? You know what was good? That was when we first began to experience and employ self-agency. Because prior to that, everyone was telling us what to do and what to say. So when it reached the point where you had brethren and sisters came to the realization that they had their very own faculty to turn to whatever they desire to turn to, and to search wherever they desire to search in order to find salvation to their people. Just by going to the Bible, it was a form of self-agency. Now, what you do with it is a whole different thing. Just like a man may desire to pick up a gun, or a man may desire to start a business, or a man may desire to start all that is form of self-agency, forms of self-empowerment, forms of taking initiative. Now, what you do with it once you pick it up, that's a whole different ball game. With decades of studying the historicity of the Bible and discovering its origination and connection with Africa, and applying their own exegetical understanding, void of proper contextualization, a decision was made by the most zealous of spiritual liberation within the African population to accept the Torah, what we call the Old Testament, as divinely inspired by the one, upon their ability to remain discreet yet functional due to their anti-establishment posture, where such discretion was necessary for their very survival. What that is saying is this: once the brethren them decide to use scripture to come into a clearer understanding for a given searching in search of a given reason why millions of Africans was, because one thing, the Bible, the scripture, it coming from the brethren, the first elders, their mentality. The scriptures prophesied many things upon that was going to take place upon the face of the earth. So if the scripture prophesied many things, great and small, that was to take place upon the face of the earth, then the subjugation of 400 million people in Babylonian captivity had to be prophesied also. That was their mentality. That was why they turned to scripture. Because the Bible can't prophesy about small things, but the Bible can prophesy about two nondescript nations going to war. The Bible can prophesy about the fall of a king. The Bible can give prophecy concerning false prophets. that very Bible would have lacked legitimacy had it not prophesied the subjugation of 400 million people for 400 years in a strange land. So, had I been there with the elders at that time, speaking on that level, 9 out of 10, I would have been a part of that concept. Let's search the scripture for the reason given why we are going through these trials and tribulation. Though 400 years later, I am sitting here and saying, well, you know what? That may have been a wrong turn, but at that time, it was the right turn for that time. Why? Because it was the first example of us as a people coming out of captive, where we demonstrated self-agency. Where we literally demonstrated, meaning we have taken a decision from our own capitalization to question and do something about the condition of our people. And we as a people, as Africa, we came from a culture where every military leader was also a spiritual leader. And that is one of the reasons why we have never separated spirituality from revolutionary leadership. That is why we have difficulty today if a man come to me and tell me, say, he or she is going to lead us to liberation. If that person tell us that he's of no faith, let me tell you something, family. We don't tend to follow people like that. Because we come out of a culture that I remember one time, even when a man go commit crime, the most fallacious crime a man going to commit, him read a scripture first before him go. Maybe remember the time when 99% of the road boy in Jamaica walk with a Bible in their back pocket. And the Bible serves as them wallet. And the Bible serves as them paper for build them weed. And the Bible serves as in order to give them a spiritual advice and ask for protection, because them see themselves that was doing something revolutionary within their own mental capacity and context. So, the brethren them turn to that, but by them turning to that, they also recognize, in whatever way they had recognized, that they were challenging the very system that they were living under. And that is why the Rastafari theological seminary and theological doctrine was developed in a very discreet way. It was developed behind closed doors, because they were afraid of the infiltrators that the Babylonians would have sent in order to infiltrate their organization, so they could charge them with fraud and decision and seditious acts. And the more this fear developed within the brethren and the sisters of the early Rastafari, was the more they acted discreetly, was the more they formed like secret societies. It still exists within the movement today. Any individual who seeks to join a Rastafari formation, he or she is first accepted with great suspicion. As wide as you believe the brethren and sisters within those organizations may open their arms, you are entering a place of great superstition and great suspicion. We need to break out of that. It does not mean that the organization, the movement, does not have secrecy or should not have secrecy. No, it does not mean that. It means that you have to find a balance where brethren and sisters can feel welcome, where brethren and sisters can move. Another development that came out of all the Rastafari's present seminaries develop, is that each and every seminary coming like a fiefdom. It come like the priest who administer to that particular community. He only administers from his own limited understanding. So what I mean, him only teach where him believe. And if there's 1,000 Rastafarian seminaries throughout the world, there's 1,000 different conceptual beliefs being taught to 1,000 different communities. So if we're talking about building a cadre of a unified mental force to lead this movement into the coming centuries, it has to be from a unified cadre mental capacity. It does not mean that everyone that participates and contributes in the movement has to be of that. Just like when you look at a military. In every military, you have an officers class. And all these officers attend the same basic military academy so that they can be indoctrinated to one particular military doctrine. But not every soldier that joins the army attend the military academy of the officers class. No, some people join the army just to appear. Some people join the army because they want to kill, murder, rape, and plunder. Some people join the army because they were forced to join it. Some people join the army just to get a paycheck. What you are concentrating on is the officers class that leads and guides and protect the secrecy of the organization. And this is the Rastafari movement, the next stage where it has to develop and go to. So that is another reason, brethren, on this way, and I will continue at the next time, giving the reasons why we need the Rastafari Promise Key Seminary. We need the Rastafari Promise Key Seminary so we can break the stranglehold that has been placed upon our brain and placed upon our mind, where today we find it so hard to even understand the concept of unity and how to unite to move the struggle forward. We must dispel and do away with the old concept talking about in order for us to unite, we all have to think the same. No, we all do not have to think the same way. We all have to participate on a certain level, but we do not all have to think the same way. And once we come into that understanding, then we're going to imply all the tentacles of this octopus. Those that we only can deal with financially, we deal with financially. Those that we only can deal with ideologically, we deal with ideological. Those who are coming for legacy, we're going to give them legacy. As long as them playing that part which is highlighted for them within the Rastafari movement. You understand? And one of the things I always show the brethren them. And you know what? I'm going to designate the next program dealing with a certain particular aspect of ancient Israel. Because there is something for us to learn from that. And when I say Israel, I'm not talking about what going over Israel and the people. We are talking about ancient Israel. Ancient Israel who is you and I. Yeah, you and I. But we're not going to delve into the lesson just to point out that we are ancient Israel. I may touch upon that, but what we want to point out is a part of how it points out to us a certain historical approach to what we call unity and the purpose of unity and the part which certain individual and the part which certain collective group is designated to and play within a wider concept of unity. And we are going to visit that one day. We are going to visit it. So basically, brethren, we cover that. And once again, all of these programs, Gillie Priest Revolutionary Radio, Forged by Time Incorporated. The objective of going into the prison system and reaching the youth them so we can better reach youth them on the street to play our part in addressing crime and violence in the society. In dealing with setting up the Rastafari Promise Key Seminary, in dealing with the world tour where I try to organize and put on something. All of this is a subsidiary of Forged by Time Limited, a for-profit corporation to move and provide resources forward towards the struggle, as well as to develop myself and to imply that dreams and aspiration that is not only a personal dream and aspiration, but a dream and aspiration that was synchronized with the ideas of certain brethren that was left within the prison system. And as a little side note, I have a brethren, two brethren basically, we get parole after spending many years imprisoned within the New York State prison system. Man, them finally get parole. It's a joy and a blessing for know so the brethren them finally come home, you know, where them can do whatever them desire to do with the rest of the life when them have left. And this thing, and we have a couple more pages to go with it. And like I keep telling the brethren and sisters, as soon as I finish this document, that is highlighting the reason why we want to establish the Rastafari Promise Key Seminary, then we will actually activate and set in motion the seminary itself. So again, asking the brethren and sisters, see the number there. Contact me and send me some pieces of emblem. That emblem that will be a representation of, a pictorial representation of the Rastafari Promise Key Seminary. And then we will move and take it forward from there. So until the next time, brethren and sisters, one God, one aim, one destiny, peace, love, and unity. And like the youth, they must say no, manners and honors. And that's how the thing set, and we'll do the maths. And do it the right way, and do it the proper way, because we know it can be done. Peace, love, and joy. Boom.